Hi, church. Today for our digital devotion, we have the pleasure of speaking with our Director of Music and Fine Arts, Dr. Jonathan Campbell. If you remember, John came to us, gosh, has it been
2 years?
2 years? 2 years ago from Minnesota, and he has quickly adapted to the lifestyle of a Southern Californian. And so we feel really lucky to have him guiding us in our music and in our fine arts at the church, especially during this time. And so we wanted to take a few minutes and talk with John about some ideas regarding music and how it can carry us through times like this. So Jacob, do you want to start us off?
The anthem this last Sunday was gorgeous
So
and
beautiful.
uplifting.
Yeah.
It spoke to us. The words were perfect for this time in our lives. And so just generally, how would you say music helps us connect to our faith and deepen our spirituality? Why do church services have music?
Why is there music in church? What's the point of it? Most people probably know this, but the reason that we have singing in Western Christianity goes all the way back to pre-Christian Judaism and synagogue worship. So after the temple was destroyed, and even before that, there were synagogues where the Hebrew people worshipped, and a big part of their worship were cantors, where they would sing parts of the Torah. And that early singing practice was adapted by the first Christians, who basically continued a kind of adapted form of Judaism. And that's where our singing comes from. That's where sacred music comes from. But the bigger question of why we sing in church, there are just books written about that. So I think I'll let that rest. But it does connect to this first question: how does music help us connect with our faith and deepen our spirituality? I've spent a lot of my career thinking about those questions. And so I'm just going to answer it in a way that is meaningful to me and hopefully is meaningful to you as well. We know through anthropology and archaeology that humans have always used art and music to respond to awe and the mystical. In fact, it was Jane Goodall who wrote about how when chimpanzees approached a waterfall that they hadn't seen before, they got really excited and really ecstatic. And Jane Goodall's idea was that primates, even advanced primates, might have a sense of mystical or mysticism when they encounter something wonderful and something amazing. It's this response with art and music is part of our DNA. We have to do it. And when we don't do it, we find we are in some kind of emotional or mental prison. Think of the most horrible kinds of mental punishments people inflict on each other. They often involve the silencing of someone or the removing them from their community. In other words, taking music away is part of a very severe punishment, like being marooned on an island or in solitary confinement in prison. Music only exists so that it can be shared with others. Not all music needs an ensemble to be performed either, but all music needs to be shared with more than one person. You need an audience. Music is by definition a communal experience. You might derive pleasure from playing piano at home alone, but I would argue even this is a communal experience for 3 reasons. We're connecting with a composer, we're connecting our minds with ourselves, and we play alone because we're hoping or imagining that we might get to share it with others. The Israelites of the Old Testament understood that the communal act of music making was a sacred experience which brings us closer to the divine and brings the divine closer to us. The book of the Psalms was sung by the Israelites as part of their liturgy. Singing our story of faith unites us with a common memory, unites us in our creed, and is an emotional bond as well as an individual catharsis, and it's also a prophetic call to action. By singing our story, by singing the biblical story of faith, God also speaks to us, reminding us that we are loved, worthy, remembered, and reminding us that we're precious members of God's creation.
Wow, I love that.
That was really
That's so
powerful.
Beautiful. Yeah, wow, I hadn't ever thought about when we perform music by ourselves, like there is this communal thing happening anyway in our minds and through the composer. That's
that our very being, our DNA needs to be able to have that communal song.
Right. Well, John, how would you say that music could be helping those of us in need of some inspiration and positivity right now during this time?
Yeah, so I think that it just comes down to the individual. One thing I thought about was, in a way, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, but this pandemic couldn't have happened at a better time in human history. We have unprecedented access to music through digital means, more than ever before in the history of humankind. Even this technology we're using today to talk to each other didn't exist, I think, 15 years ago. So people have literally the whole libraries of music at their fingertips. So the flip side of that is that people can feel overwhelmed. You know, you go to YouTube and you type in relaxing song, and you're going to get 10 million songs, and some of them are going to involve like cartoon ducks, and you might get Baby Shark, and you know, it can be really overwhelming. So how can you find music to find positivity, inspiration in this time? I would say use what is meaningful to you, what's nostalgic to you, what brings you comfort. I think in these times, music has become a little bit like food. You want to go to what's familiar, what you know, and what brings you comfort. So I don't know what that is for everybody, but you know, if an old Beach Boys song is what you're looking for, that can bring you some peace and calm, just go for it.
Gotcha. So all those, what do you call them? Our guilty pleasure songs that are hiding in the back of our iPod list, or maybe even like our old CDs.
Yeah,
we
break
can
out the
get
CDs,
out of
the
storage
tapes, the 8-tracks, the vinyls.
play them without shame.
That's right. You know, I think that's right. I mean, there's a part of music that's edifying and academic and structured and formal and developed that we think of when we're considering music by like Mozart. But and I'm not saying that music isn't emotional and satisfying, but there is definitely a side to music where it's just kind of goes like there's songs I like for no good reason, just because they're sentimental. Like there's no reason why I should like old Hawaiian music, but I do because it reminds me of something from my childhood. So yeah, don't be ashamed of the things that you love or that bring you comfort, because this is the perfect time to enjoy them.
It's a good reminder.
It's been a really hard economy for musicians right now, especially those who rely on gigs for their livelihood. And I know that you're talking with a lot of church musicians right now about how music in the church, the landscape has shifted radically. And we're reading articles right now about even when we come back to church, we shouldn't be singing together. What does music in the church look like right now? And how can the church still use music to carry forth its message even during the pandemic?
Yeah, so there are two sides to that coin, I think. One is that musicians, especially singers and choirs, have been uniquely hit hard by this, because everything that every aspect of our music making involves people gathering close together, singing and exhaling a lot. It's just really scary. And there, of course, is this now CDC case study of the choir in Washington where a whole bunch of singers got sick and some people died. So that's been really hard. The flip side is that, especially in church music, we've been talking about and reinforcing a positive message for all of our careers. And I feel like we're kind of mentally equipped to deal with this. We're mentally equipped to think about what are the opportunities here. We're creative people, so how can we try something creative and new? How can we think about the future, and how we can have hope? The idea of hope is such a deeply ingrained concept of Christianity, and musicians also, like me, are used to planning ahead. So a lot of us are thinking, okay, maybe our plans have to be put off for a year or two, but that doesn't mean that music is canceled forever. So a lot of us, quite honestly, are in a holding pattern, and we're trying to also have a deeper appreciation, deeper joy for what we love about music and what we took for granted before. So that's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah. Well, we know that in our worship services online, the music that you have been cultivating for us has been deeply inspirational and hopeful.
Hmm.
So thank you for your hard work.
Absolutely. All right. So, what is some examples of music that you are listening to right now that you think others might appreciate as we navigate this time together? And it can be sacred music, or it can be some of those guilty pleasures that are secular. What songs would you recommend for people right now?
Well, I can only speak for myself because everyone comes at music from such a different point of view. So I have a piano in my apartment. Here it is. Here's my piano.
Nice.
Um, and I decided myself that I was going to start playing Chopin because I've never really played Chopin before. And I'm not a good pianist, but I thought there's got to be some
Not
Chopin.
true. I heard you play the piano. That's not true.
It is. We'll agree to disagree.
Okay.
So I got a Chopin book, and every day for about a half an hour, I sit down and I play some Chopin, and it's just so good for my fingers and so good for my brain and my heart, and is also good for my discipline. It kind of keeps me playing, and as a composer, I'm thinking about the harmonies and what is Chopin doing. One recommendation based on my experience is to try something new. If there is a genre of music that you've struggled with your whole life, an esoteric example might be the Mahler symphonies. I've never really been able to appreciate Mahler symphonies. Well, you know what? Get a glass of wine and listen to a whole Mahler symphony. And then the next day, try it again and see what you think. Or if you've never appreciated the Beatles, or maybe there's some contemporary Christian praise music that's always annoyed you. Well, sit down and listen to it and say, other people, here's what I tell myself. A lot of other people love this. A lot of thousands of people love this. What am I missing? Can I join them in understanding their experience? And it doesn't even necessarily mean I have to like it, but I might be able to find a vein, like when you're mining, a vein I can explore. And that to me is the joy and the never-ending exploration of music and all art, is that you're always learning and always growing and always turning over a new stone. So that's one way to think about this, is find something new, explore something exciting or something that's challenged you in the past, or go back to your old favorites. Go back to your comfort food music, or the things your parents used to play and sing to you when you were a kid, and you might hear them in a new way also.
I love that. Maybe a little bit of both, something old, something new.
Yeah, right.
No, that's great, because I know right now a lot of people are taking up new hobbies or revisiting old hobbies. People are trying new recipes. And so why not try some new music? And now's as good as time as any, right?
That's a great idea.
I love that.
Thank you, John, for being with us. We are so grateful that you inspire us with music in the church, and you give us a song to sing, an opportunity to tell the story of our faith through music together in community. And just to let you know, Dr. Campbell is actually going to be starting a class tonight and subsequent Wednesdays at 7:30. The link to the Zoom meeting is in the email that you got where you saw this devotion. And so we hope that you can join him. It's going to be looking at 1,000 years of choral music, and you'll learn a lot. Everything you told me that you're talking about tonight, I had no idea what you said. So I'm going to try to tune in and learn a bit as well. So thank you for your time together.
Thanks, John. We'll see you later.